Welcome to Hazy2Clear.com TV. I'm Josh Veronica. I'm joined today by Yasir Solomon, Ryan Hillary, Jack Boyd, and David O'Sullivan. The first issue we want to get into today is the recently announced military cuts. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel announced that as part of President Obama's budget proposal, the military will shrink from 522,000 soldiers to about 450,000 soldiers. Yasir, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is a horrible time for military cuts. I mean, China and Russia are like rapidly gearing up, as if they're gearing up for World War III. Like, the military expansion of Russia and China is unprecedented. And global tensions have really been high since the Cold War. I mean, we have civil wars in Syria and Sudan. We have a toppling of government in Ukraine. We have brutal, I mean, we just had a military coup in Egypt. We have like brutal riots across the world. The global financial market teeters on the brink of collapse. And we have the tensions in Southeast Asia where China and Japan and Taiwan are just going at it. I mean, really, it's a bad time for military cuts. And let me just throw this out there. 62% of our budget goes to social spending, and they want to cut the military. I mean, I'm sure our enemies will be delighted by this. Let me just throw that out there.
Okay, well, I could sort of respond with a question. Now, it's rhetorical. But do you really, you mentioned a lot of things. I don't understand what they have in relation to the U.S. military. Like China. China's military expanding. I don't believe that we're going to get in a war with China anytime soon. Or Russia, Ukraine. Are we going to get military involved in those anytime soon? Now, you're listing a lot of strife across the world, and I understand that there's strife across the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the U.S. has to get involved. Now, and I understand that Obama has, in some ways, has gotten involved in certain situations, but he's also gotten us out of others, such as Iraq and Afghanistan. I think that what we have to understand about these cuts is that the United States is in a little bit of trouble. We're running high deficits and high debt. And as much as the Republicans like to, complain about the debt and complain about the deficit and blame Obama, they're not willing to do the tough things. And this is the tough thing. No, it's not optimal that we make military cuts. It's not. But it's necessary domestically. And the cost is too high to not make tough decisions.
This is not a tough decision. This is a stupid decision. There's a big difference between making tough decisions and actually cutting programs that are not necessary and cutting inefficient programs of government. For example, like I said, 62% of our budget goes to social spending, and the Democrats will never touch that. But they want to go touch the military. The military, that's ridiculous.
Why is the military?
The military is only 18% of the budget.
Why is it
and it is so essential to our national security.
But why is it untouchable?
Because it is essential to the safety of American citizens. It's essential to our status as a world superpower.
You're making it sound as if we're not going to have a military. We are going to have a military. We're just going to scale it back. We don't have a huge issue right now where we need to go fight somewhere. We don't. There's not a huge amount of troops that we need to send. Okay.
We don't have the liberty just to be scaling back on our military. Like I said, the global climate is horrible right now. Tensions are really high, and in Russia and China, our biggest adversaries are really, well, they're not our adversaries, but they're our biggest, let's just say, counterparts on the world stage, and they're out there like really expanding their military at unprecedented levels, and in response, we're cutting back.
Now, you say that we don't have the liberty to scale back our military slightly, and I would respond with, we don't have the liberty not to scale back our military slightly. Now, you go in general with your social spending, your 62%, and obviously that'll come from a lot of different sources, and you're adding them all together and it results in a big number. But ultimately, 18%, the military is pretty much the largest expenditure of the U.S. government in general. Now, I guess if you add all the social programs, different ones together, it might result in a high number, but that's kind of misleading to say that it's something that's so untouchable, we can't cut it, we absolutely can't cut it. We have to cut it.
They're going about this a completely wrong way, though. You have to think about it on a personal level. You're cutting 80,000 jobs. Those people are being paid. They'll lose their jobs. They're not having an income now. It hurts the economy even more than it's already suffering. They need to cut the waste that's going on in the military instead of cutting jobs and cutting people from the army. So the outrageous money we spend on building the bombers for $2 billion, that's where we need to cut. Not in jobs.
And I think they are cutting it, but I think that sometimes
80,000 jobs. If you think about it that way, that's 80,000 people losing their jobs. With the job problem we already have, with 80 million people not working,
Okay, some jobs are redundant, and you do need to be more efficient sometimes. There are some unnecessary positions sometimes.
We're in a
You
job
have- you have
crisis.
to
We
cut.
need to cut waste, not this way.
He's
He's going about it the
adding
complete
skilled
wrong
people
way.
to the workforce.